Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode. Today we begin a new concept here called Photo Philosophy Fridays. And it's not going to happen every Friday, so what I'm going to do is try to release a video every Saturday. But every once in a while on a Friday, I'm going to release these special topics, right? So let's get started. Today's topic is taking a photograph versus stealing a photograph, borrowing a photograph, and we're going to begin with a famous quote. So the quote says something like this: you don't take a photograph, you ask quietly to borrow it. So I thought about that and I thought it was pretty cool. The concept is definitely there where, if you're out shooting flowers, if you're in the woods, if you're in a quiet place, yes, we have that tendency of thinking that we're kind of tiptoeing around in between the flowers, in between nature, not damaging anything, taking our picture, or in this case, as the quote says, borrowing a picture, right? And then we quietly leave and we try not to upset anything. So in that situation, I can see where the author is saying this. I have it written here. You don't take a photograph, you ask quietly to borrow it. Unknown author. However, I somewhat disagree with this, and let me tell you why. Before we continue, I want to give you a warning here. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a philosopher, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm none of those, right? Like many of you, I like to think about things and I wonder about things. So I know probably enough, thanks to being one class away from a minor in psychology in college, I probably know enough to be a little dangerous and ask, stupid questions. So this is where all this is coming from, right? I just sit back over a nice cup of coffee or tea sometimes, and I just let thoughts wander. And this is where we're headed. So we begin with the importance of language here, right? Take a photograph, borrow a photograph, steal a photograph, right? It's all language, the importance of language. And it's already been proven that language changes our mind. Now, how does language change our mind? Well, for starters, if you wake up every morning and first thing you think or say to yourself is, I can't stand my job, or I hate waking up early, or man, I can't believe I'm doing this again, stuff like that, then you, by saying this to yourself, saying it out loud, saying it in your mind, you start to shape what happens on a daily basis. You start to shape your mind, right? You begin to believe that you have a crappy life, that you have a crappy job, that your job might not be perfect, but I guarantee you there are people that have it worse off, right? I know for sure there are people that have it worse off than I do. Sometimes we're just not in that mood and we wake up saying these things. Not good. Our language should be always positive. Positive language shapes a positive mind, right? Joel Osteen says, whether you're Catholic, Christian, whatever, I'm not actually going into religion because that's not important. I use the quote as an example. Joel Osteen says you can't plant, and I forget the right fruit that he mentions, right? You can't plant grape seeds and expect to get oranges. It doesn't work that way, right? Same thing. We can't plant negative thoughts every day and expect to get positivity. It doesn't work that way, right? So right off the bat, we've clarified that notion that language actually does shape our mind. And this is important because we're headed in a certain direction here with this topic. And that comes from the fact that what we say to ourselves shapes our mind, which then shapes the direction that our day goes into, right? Whether it goes in a positive spin, a negative spin, right? We control that. And the same is going to be true about photography and how we speak to ourselves about our photographs, right? And our photography habit, hobby, however you want to call it. So I can say I showered, or I can say I took a shower, right? I can say I'm going to guard someone, or I can say I'm going to take care of them. Or I can say I'm going to go photograph something, or I'm going to take a photograph. What's the difference? Does it matter? And by the way, what is this obsession we have with taking things? Something in there, right? So the first concept here is possession. After all, who doesn't want to possess more stuff? By taking something, we possess it. I mean, it's that simple. It's ours. We can actually take something, like a photograph, without going to jail for taking it. Isn't that cool? Cool concept, right? I'm going to take a photograph, and I'm not going to go to jail. And I took it anyway. You see, human beings have a have an obsession with possession. We love accruing stuff. If you don't believe me, watch George Carlin's video on stuff. Just look it up. It's a fantastic video. He's a comedian. He's a little vulgar, mouth. So be careful if you have children around. Okay. So the thought here is that by changing our language, we can start accruing stuff in our mind, on our PC, because we're taking photographs. We're not borrowing them. We're certainly not stealing them unless you're actually grabbing something off somebody's desk, right? So as you'll see, as we progress with this conversation, it's all leading in a direction, right? The next topic is creation. In painting or in drawing, the artist creates. They create a sketch, they create a painting. In photography, we don't usually say we created a photograph, although we that's what we're doing. But we don't use that term, right? The moment is really happening around us and we're just capturing it, basically. But here's the thing, by changing the language and saying we are taking a photograph, in our mind, we actually own this now, right? We've taken it. We can hold it, and more importantly, we can print it. If we can print something, then we've created something. We've created something we can hold, touch, feel, and we can hang it on a wall. Ha! Proof that we created something. It's alive, basically. So taking a photograph gives us that power of creation, where we are actually creating something instead of pushing a button. Big difference. So the topic of creation highlights two important factors. One is shooting in manual mode, and the second is the importance of printing our work. Number one, shooting in manual mode gives us more control over our photography, right? If we're not shooting in manual, if we're shooting in automatic, then we really are just clicking a button. And I don't want to just click a button. I want to create the depth of field, the bokeh. I want to do all that stuff, right? And for that, I have to be in manual mode. Otherwise, I lose that control. Point number two, that power of printing gives us the ability to hold, right? We create something, we can hold it, we can carry it, we can take it somewhere. And that brings us to the next topic, holding. You see, taking something implies holding it, right? This gives us photographers the idea that we can take something non-physical, like a moment in time, and we can turn it into something physical, like a photograph that we can hold, carry, take, print. Well, print, it's already printed, right? Hang it up somewhere. Give it as a gift. Heck, that's magic if you ask me. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Peter McKinnon, I hope you guys have all seen his videos. If you haven't, check him out, Peter McKinnon. Maybe that's one of the reasons why he went from being an excellent magician to being an excellent photographer so quickly. He actually understands the power of magic in photography. So the last point here is memories that I want to make about this whole, concept that we're talking about, right? Photo Philosophy Fridays, first theme, which is this quote that we read earlier. It's all about memories. For photographers, the concept of taking a photograph has even more special meaning. You see, while most people are content just living the moment, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Some people will actually even post it just to kind of show what a cool life they have. A true photographer is not concerned about that stuff. A true photographer wants to keep that moment. They want to take that moment because they get a chance to relive it over and over and over. That's the whole point of taking a photograph. Not only are you photographing a moment, you're taking it, right? You're making it yours because you're going to look at it over and over again and it's special to you. And it goes even deeper than reliving that moment. It's about how we got there, who we met along the way, the journey to this fantastic picture that we ended up taking. That explains why photographers like me that come from the film days rarely ever disposed of our negatives. We just didn't. Even if most of the pictures on there were bad, be honest with you, they took up very little space. I kept them in an envelope and I put them away because they're priceless, right? They're priceless. Even if one picture came out really good, or if all of the pictures were so-so, they were still that moment that we get to relive later on. And by the way, it's no different to photographers today and why some of us have trouble deleting pictures from our computer. If they're not, killing our memory, and if we have plenty of memory to go around, then, we just keep them because, again, it's a memory in time. So we mentioned the word carrying a photograph too, right? Once you print it, you can carry it. And that's very important as well. Taking a photograph implies that you can carry it. And carrying a photograph with you is much better than photographing something and leaving it behind, right? You're taking it with you, you're carrying it with you. So when we talk about all this, we're talking about mental concepts, right? This is all mental, it's in the mind. And it makes sense because we're all mental. Now, I can't really speak for you, but people say I'm pretty mental. So the purpose of this Photo Philosophy Fridays is to keep pushing forward with new ideas. We all need to push each other to grow, to learn, to change with the times. So I vow to do my best, and I hope that you can keep me honest as well. If you stuck around till this point, we have something special that continues this topic even a little further into the depths. You see, we need to select our language carefully. That's where we started, right? It doesn't just affect us, it affects the people around us. And this brings us to two final thoughts. Words are like mirrors that reflect what's already inside of our mind. These are the things that we already believe or don't believe. And by the way, the absence of a word can be as powerful, if not more powerful than the word itself. The words I love you say a whole lot, but not saying them might say a little more. And here's a little more magic for you. Words can actually make things happen. We started talking about that a little bit, right? But this is only true if you feel them inside, if you believe them when you say them to yourself. The example we gave earlier about that person that wakes up in the morning and says the negative stuff, well, they end up shaping their day. They end up having a crappy day, right? The person that wakes up in the morning is having a so-so life that year, is having a so-so day. Their job is okay. It's not the best. They wake up every morning saying, I love my life. This is the opportunity I have, to change my life, to make a difference. And I get another chance today. They say this every day. And you know what happens? That attitude for them opens more doors for them than it does for anybody, any of us, right? Their energy is magnetic. It draws people in. It draws us in. Think about it when you're somewhere and you see that one happy person, right? If you're not one of those negative, depressed people that walk around glooming and complaining about everything, because these types of people hate everything and they hate everyone. But if you're not one of them, then you see somebody that's really happy at a party, you kind of get drawn to that, right? You hear laughter, you hear that person that's keeping everybody bubbly and happy. You get drawn to them. You want to be around them. You want to hear what they have to say, and you end up feeling good, right? You end up having a good time. Well, guess what? That attitude also draws other influential and optimistic people into their lives, and before you know it, they don't have a crappy life anymore. They've turned their life around just by what they say to themselves every single day. So the power of words is undeniable. It's there. So what does this mean in photography? Well, we joke around a little bit with the beginning, right? With the thumbnail. I stole a photograph. Well, it's really about taking a photograph. And did you take that photograph or did you borrow the photograph? That's the point here, is to discuss that proverb. We can take everything and just let it slide by, right? We read something and it slides by, or we can read it, analyze it a little, let it soak in, right? Grab a glass of wine, grab a glass of tea, a cup of coffee, and sit there and analyze it. What does it mean? What did this person or photographer mean when they said that, right? We don't take a photograph, we kind of borrow it quietly. And do I agree with that? That's basically what I did, right? And you start to understand how the mind works when you do that. Yes, it's a silly exercise that we're doing here, but in the long run, when you do this often, and you do it, all the time and consistently, it's an awareness. And we're going to talk about that. That's a topic that we have for a more basic photography issue, which is awareness in photography, right? That means walking through the woods with a camera in your hand, just having a great day, as opposed to being completely aware of your surroundings and everything that's around you, smallest to biggest, that you can photograph from all the possible different angles, right? From inside your car, from inside your trunk, who knows? But that is awareness. And awareness here means taking something like a quote, a simple quote, and just being aware of what the author is trying to say, maybe just trying to understand the author, right? That gives us an awareness, and it gives us another level of depth. So when you take this forward into your photography, use it everywhere. If you're shooting a portrait, look at the subject. If it's a person you've never photographed before that you're just meeting, ask them a few questions, because once you get to know them, you can actually figure out how they photograph a little better. If you find out they're extremely optimistic, then you want them to laugh a little more because that's them, right? That's how you want people to remember them in the portrait. If you see that they're kind of weighed down with negativity and just life is keeping them, then you want a serious picture because that's how you want people to remember them. That's how they want people to remember them. So this is not just about analyzing a quote, it's that depth that we live our life with. So we conclude by saying, don't just be successful, take life by surprise. Don't just sleep a little, take a nap. Don't just dispose of your garbage, take out your trash. Don't go on a trip, take a vacation. And by all means, do not ever photograph something. Take the picture, make it yours. It's yours. You created it. Yes, you captured a moment in time that's already there and you took it. You made it yours. That is the most powerful thing that you have in your hands as a photographer. You have a camera that gives you the ability to take things that nobody else can take. You as a photographer can take them. You can make them yours. You can print them. You can carry them. You can hold them. You can gift them. And by all means, if you're a photographer, gift these pictures that you take, because that's a beautiful gift. If you ever sit there wondering, what do I give a person for their birthday, for the holidays? Give them a beautiful picture of yours. Take a picture you love that you've taken and give it, frame it, or put it in a mat and give it to them. I know philosophy, psychology, whatever, isn't for everybody. Wordsmithing, right? So some people will look at this and blow by the video. If you got here, then this topic is for you. Look out for Photo Philosophy Fridays. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel so you'll see when these keep coming out in the future. If you have some comments, some feedback, please post them. They mean a lot. If you have some questions, post them on there. I try to answer all my questions that I see on there. I'm going to start doing more product reviews and comparisons, all kinds of do's and don'ts of photography, but I'll keep rolling these out every once in a while. So keep looking out for these. So until we meet again, my lovely people, take it easy and take care. Ciao for now.